You think you know Disney? Think again. What if Ursula was saving mermaids from pollution? Oscar was leaving the Pride Lines with integrity. This isn't your fairy tale. It's a groundbreaking look at the surprising heroics and internal battles of villains who choose to abandon their wicked pasts and fight for what's right.
Well, well.
Instead of being the terrifying mistress of evil, Maleficent would actually be the guardian angel of the kingdom. She wouldn't cast Aurora. She'd cast protective spells around her crib, warding off sickness and danger. She'd still have her signature sass, but this time it would be directed at anyone who tried to harm the princess. In this new version, the three good fairies wouldn't have to hide Aurora in a cottage. Instead, they'd co-parent with Maleficent, raising her into the most untouchable Disney princess of all time. Imagine Aurora growing up with four magical moms. Girl will never know struggle. If Ursula were a hero, she'd transform from manipulative sea witch into the ocean's ultimate life coach. Instead of stealing voices, she'd run an underwater talent agency, helping mermaids find their confidence. She'd mentor Ariel, reminding her that she doesn't need to change herself to find love. And instead of using flotsam and jetsam for spying, she'd rescue lost fish and guide them back to their schools. Can you imagine Ursula and King Triton teaming up? She'd be the PR queen of the ocean while he handled the politics. Together, they'd rule Atlantica like the Beyonce and Jay-Z of the sea. As a hero, Scar would still be witty and cunning, but instead of plotting against Mufasa, he'd use his brains to strengthen the Pride Lands. He'd negotiate peace with the hyenas instead of manipulating them, building an alliance that made sure no one ever went hungry again. Scar would act as a strategist, while Mufasa handled the brute force, making them the ultimate sibling dream team. Simba would grow up with two father figures, learning wisdom from Scar and courage from Mufasa. The circle of life would have been one big family cookout instead of, well, Hamlet with lions. Now Hades is already hilarious, so flipping him into a hero is easy. Imagine him running the underworld, but instead of trapping souls, he helps them find peace. He'd turn the river Styx into a free therapy hotline for wandering spirits. And when it comes to Hercules, Hades wouldn't be plotting his downfall. He'd be the sarcastic but supportive uncle who shows up at every Olympic game with a giant foam finger. Megara? Totally shipping her and Hercules, giving her pep talks about self-worth while roasting Zeus on the side. Cruella as a hero would flip the fashion game completely. Instead of chasing puppies, she'd run the largest animal rescue foundation in London. Her clothing line would feature faux fur, sustainable fabrics, and proceeds would go straight into dog shelters. Ponga and Perdita would be her mascots, starring in all her campaigns. And instead of that terrifying car chase, Cruella would be zooming through the streets in an eco-friendly electric car, rescuing animals in distress. Hero Jafar would be the smartest guy in Agrabah, but instead of being power-hungry, he'd use his brains to protect the kingdom. He'd be the royal advisor who saw through Aladdin's disguises, but instead of exposing him, he'd actually help him win Jasmine's heart by teaching him about honesty. With Iago as comic relief, Jafar would be the man who helps Aladdin rise from street rat to prince the right way. And let's be real, Agrabah would be thriving with Jafar's genius in economics and security planning. Instead of being obsessed with beauty, the evil queen would embrace aging gracefully and use her magic to lift other women up. She'd run an enchanted spa retreat in the forest, offering magical facials and life coaching. Snow White wouldn't have to run from poisoned apples. She'd be running her own wellness brand, co-managed by the queen herself. The huntsman, he'd be promoted to head of forest security, making sure no wild boars ruined the retreat vibes.
Are you against me too? Are you? Yes or no?
Hero Gaston would still be ridiculously strong, but instead of using that power to brag, he'd protect the village. He'd lead hunting expeditions that didn't involve killing, but teaching survival skills to kids. Belle wouldn't roll her eyes at him. She'd actually admire him as a loyal friend and protector. And instead of storming the castle, Gaston would be Beast's sight man, pushing him to shoot his shot with Belle. Together, they'd become the most unexpected bromance in Disney history. The Shadow Man would become New Orleans' magical healer. He'd use his tarot cards not to scam people, but to genuinely guide them. His shadow friends, they deliver good luck charms instead of curses. Tiana would still open her restaurant, but Facilio would be her business partner, enchanting the menu spells that made customers leave happier than they came in. Gothel as a hero would still love Rapunzel's hair, but instead of hoarding it, she'd encourage Rapunzel to share her gift to the world. She'd help Rapunzel set up a magical healing center, where people traveled from all over the world to be cured. Instead of gaslighting Rapunzel, she'd empower her, acting like the proud mom who brags to everyone at the marketplace about her daughter's golden touch. As a hero, Shani would recognize Mulan's bravery and ask to train alongside her. Instead of invading China, he'd defend it against real threats. Together, they'd be the ultimate warrior duo, respected by emperors and feared by enemies. Imagine a scene where Shan Yu and Mulan train new recruits side by side. That would be legendary. Good guy who could retire from fighting Peter Pan and instead adopt the Lost Boys. He'd use his ship to travel the world, showing them places they'd never dreamed of. Smee would be the lovable dad figure, and the Jolly Roger would be more like a floating summer camp than a pirate vessel. Hook's biggest enemy? Bad weather, not Peter Pan. Hero Yzma would still want the throne, but for the good of the people. She'd modernize Cusco's empire with public schools, healthcare, and no more llama drama. Kron could be her head of nutrition, handing out spinach puffs to every citizen for free. Honestly, Yzma's a benevolent dictator kind of slaps. Instead of running Sunnyside like a prison, Lotso would make it the happiest daycare ever. Toys would be rotated fairly, kids would be taught kindness, and Lotso would be the teddy bear everyone wanted to hug. Buzz and Woody would trust him completely, and Sunnyside would become the model daycare across Pixar worlds. Hero Queen of Hearts would swap off with their heads for off with negativity. She'd turn Wonderland into a kingdom of joy, self-love, and endless tea parties. Harcourt would be a safe space for creativity, with Alice leading the workshops in imagination and storytelling. Tamatoa would still be obsessed with shiny things, but instead of hoarding, he'd use his reflective shell to help lost sailors find their way home. He'd act like a giant disco ball lighthouse, guiding Moana and her people across the seas. Plus, he'd still perform, but this time his song would be about protecting instead of flexing. Reformed Sid would channel his destructive creativity into becoming a toy inventor. He designed toys that are safe, fun, and way ahead of their time. Andy and Sid would even collaborate, turning childhood imagination into the biggest toy company Pixar had ever seen. Instead of scaring kids, Randall would team up with Sally and Mike to generate laughter energy. He'd actually be the one designing new laugh technology, making Monstropolis more sustainable than ever. Together, the trio would form the dream team of comedy. Hero Hans would genuinely fall in love with Anna. He'd help her and Elsa rebuild Arendelle, using his political skills to form alliances with other kingdoms. Instead of betrayal, he'd be the loyal prince who proved himself worthy of the throne. Instead of sowing fear, Bellwether would fight prejudice head-on. She'd work alongside Judy Hopps to create equal rights policies for predators and prey. Under her leadership, Zootopia would become the most progressive city in the Disney universe. Honestly, I think we just wrote Disney's next blockbuster crossover. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below your thoughts on these switcheroos. Thanks for tuning in. Till next time.
Nice words. What will you tell them? That you've made them dessert?